First of all, uh, do you know the word, the verb to recall?
Rievocare?
Yes and no.
Ricordare?
Yes, exactly. To recall, it's just like to remember. The meaning is quite similar. Yeah, so you can say
I think that the recall is just seeing a sequence like it was.
yeah,
No.
well, in Italian we don't have a big difference. We don't have another verb we can use. You can say rimembrare, but it's not like, real Italian. It's not contemporary Italian, but it's like the difference between ricordare and rimembrare.
No, I wanted to say rievocare.
Yeah, it's like rievocare more or less, yeah. But
Wow.
it's quite similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, it's more generic rather than recall is more specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't remember what we talked about last time?
I think about America, no?
Yeah, we talked about something related to America.
Yeah.
What was it in particular?
Mm, Commonwealth, yeah.
Yeah, the American Commonwealth. So all the territories
Yeah.
not being a state of the US, but still being part of the American territories. So where the population, most of the population are American citizens. Let's say somebody from PR, from Puerto Rico. They are not Puerto Rican citizens. They are American citizens. Okay. So I'm gonna read the same text again, obviously faster than the last time, and then we can finish talking about the American Commonwealth, discuss about the topic if you have, I don't know, any interest in it. If you wanna ask me anything about that, then we can talk about the British Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth related, where the leader is Queen Elizabeth. So where the leader is the Queen slash King of England, of the UK. Or we can talk about the American states, as you prefer. Okay, so
yesterday I saw the very beautiful film on TV about Elizabeth. And I know the history, etc. But it was nice to watch another history about the Armada against Spain, the other things about it.
I see. Was it interesting?
Yes. I remember many situations and I was happy about it.
Nice.
I like historical films.
So you like historical movies, so history-related films. Interesting. So, just give me a minute, and we're gonna start again with the American Commonwealth. Okay, just give me a sec. I guess, yeah, just it was this one. Okay. Here it is. Okay. So, I'll read it really quickly, then we can finish discussing about that. Okay, so everything you need to know about the territories of the US. This article focuses on the territories of the US. It's part of a three-part series explaining the current day situation of the remnants of the colonial empires of the early 20th century, almost all of which are small islands scattered around the world. Other parts of the territories series examine the status of British territories and French territories. The US came to the colonization game rather late. By William McKinley's presidency, the world had already been carved up by European powers. Can you understand the word to be carved up?
No.
So, to carve something. Yeah, usually it's like to carve something. Like to like to work on something. Like I don't know. Um, in sculpture, you can carve, let's say, stones or other materials. So it's like levigating something, changing the shape of something. So to be carved up means how can I say that with other words in English? To be influenced, to be changed, you know, in the shape and in the historical and cultural related aspects. Drastically changed. Okay, so um, it's like saying the world had already been dominated by European powers in this specific case. So, with a strong desire to prove itself as the equal to Britain and France, the US closed out the 19th century by engaging in a war with Spain that took from it the last of its colonies. It turned out, however, that the US wasn't very good at being a colonial power. A former colony itself, it had neither the stomach or long-term desire to hold colonies. What's the meaning of holding something? Can you understand the verb to hold?
Trattenere in italiano.
Exactly. To keep something. To keep the colonies for themselves. To keep them united. Okay. Its largest colony, the Philippines, was given independence 40 years after it had been ceded from Spain, and it would have been granted independence even sooner if it hadn't been for World War II. Today, the US has long since given up its hopes of becoming a colonial empire, but it still holds onto many pieces of its early 20th century attempt to become one. The story of the US territories is one of the least known and most interesting parts of US history. If you're looking for a fascinating longer account, check out whatever, How to Widen Empire. Okay. Otherwise, let's dive into everything you need to know about the US territories. So we already saw that there were many territories in the Caribbean and in the Pacific Islands and in the Australasia area, so between Asia and Oceania, Australia, so the Philippines and other small islands. Okay, let's keep on reading. Okay. Here we saw how many territories which nowadays are states, such as Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Hawaii, and Alaska, were territories before being states. So, do you know the difference between Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, and Hawaii and Alaska? So the first three states you can see here, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Arizona, are not as, not like Hawaii and Alaska. What's the big deal? What's the big difference between the last two states and the others? Do you know that?
They are independent. No,
Mm.
away, distaccate, detached.
Yeah, they are separated. They are
Separate.
detached physically from the rest of the country. Yeah, there are no land boundaries, no land borders with other American states.
Mm.
Alaska is bordered by Canada, and Hawaii are in the middle of the ocean of the Pacific, halfway between the North American continent and Japan. Okay. And what about Washington, D.C.? Is it a state?
Is a capital.
Yeah, it's the
I
capital.
went down there.
It's a district.
Is
Yeah.
a district.
Yeah, it's not a state, it's a district. Exactly. Okay. So. Reading. Okay. What about Puerto Rico? What's the most unique thing about Puerto Rico, and probably one of the reasons why Puerto Rico nowadays is not a state? I mean,
Because it's in Central America, no?
yes and no, because Central America theoretically is part of North America. The continents are North America and South America. That's a different aspect. I'm gonna show you something. Okay, so if you look at Hawaii, okay, it's so far away from the US, well, quite far away from the rest of the US, while Puerto Rico is quite close to Miami and the Florida Keys and the rest of, of Florida. So what's the big deal? What's the difference between Puerto Rico and Hawaii or even Alaska? Because also Alaska is not that close to Washington State. So the main difference is that in Puerto Rico, most of the population are not fluent or at least don't speak English as a first language. Well, meanwhile, in Hawaii, many people are bilingual. Many of them can speak both Hawaiian and English, but most of them, or maybe even pretty much everybody, speaks English as a first language. That's the same in Alaska. So that's the main difference between these states, being separated from the rest of mainland America and Puerto Rico. So, okay. Okay. So we read about other territories such as American Samoa, Palmyra Atoll, Baker Island, whatever. Okay. Can you remember about American Samoa? Why is it called American Samoa and not just Samoa? Do you know that?
No.
Okay, so we saw that there are two Samoas. Okay, let me find the part about American Samoa. Just give me a minute. Okay. One. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna read the part about the two Samoas again. So last time we saw that in the late 19th century, a civil war in Samoa almost led the US and Germany to go to war. That was because, they both used the islands, the Samoa Islands, for whaling. Can you understand the word whaling?
Cacciare le balene.
Pescare le balene.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And as a fueling station. So the Tripartite Convention of 1899 divided the Samoan Islands between Western Islands, so Western Samoas, or just Samoan Islands, and Eastern Samoan, so the American Samoan Islands. The culture between American Samoa and the other side of Samoa is pretty much the same. So that's the main difference. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's more or less what we saw last time. So the main differences between the American Commonwealth territories and the former American territories. So let's go back to something else about English-speaking countries. Is there any preference? Is there any topic you'd like to talk about? Like, I don't know, the American national parks or American culture, Australian culture, British culture, anything?
Australian.
So wanna focus on Australia? Wanna learn something about Australia?
I traveled to Australia. I was in Sydney, Canberra,
Mm-mm.
and Melbourne. Nice.
So do you wanna talk about it? Mhm.
Yes. And now me personally,
Any
I
whoever wants to. Is it okay to you? Do you find this topic interesting?
Yes.
speaking about my stay there. You mean?
Yeah, you can talk about your stay and we can focus, about the history and culture about Australia in general.
Yeah, there are the kangaroos, which are very impressive because they look like a strange person coming towards you. And then there are emus, big struzzi, like
Yeah, they are big birds looking like ostriches.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
and they make a sound from the from inside, like tum 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 tum, like that. And what is amazing is many parrots. They speak. They say, and another particular thing in Australia is they speak with an accent like to die, yesterday. Uh, they speak strange,
With a thick accent.
big accent. Yeah.
Yeah, with a thick accent. Do you know what thick means?
Sorry,
You know what thick means?
I didn't get.
Do you know what thick means?
Ah, thick accent. Marcato. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the ground is red, almost red,
Mm-mm.
and they have good wine, good beer, good beef, and they drive on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Um, yeah, in Canberra there was this huge cemetery, military cemetery, very
Mm-hmm.
impressive. And what else? Ah, well, okay. The skyscrapers of Sydney are incredible.
The operas, I
Ah,
guess.
Opera House, yes,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yep. We can focus about it, and then I searched this article on Wikipedia. Did you hear about it?
No.
The Australian army fought against the emus and they even lost.
Wow. I didn't know.
Yeah, they even lost, against the emus. Emus survived, and the Australian government just, call it as a defeat, as a retreat.
Mm.
Anyway, that's a fun fact. That's an interesting thing. Quite weird, quite unusual.
Of course, the season there is on the contrary. I was there in December, plenty summer, full summer
It's
time.
a, it's a completely different
Yeah,
hemisphere. So the
hemisphere.
seasons, yeah, the
Mm.
seasons are really different
Mm.
from the European ones.
Mm.
I totally get it. I can understand it because
Mm.
it was pretty much the same, in South Africa.
Mm.
Okay, so let's read something about Australia. Australia is a country that is a part of the continent of the same name. In terms of land area, Australia is the sixth largest country in the world. Australia is a highly developed country and is among the wealthiest in the world. In fact, it ranked fifth in the world in terms of per capita income. The country also places second in terms of Human Development Index, which calculates education, health, and quality of living. With such a large size, you have an unlimited array of options for things to see or do when you travel to Australia. Was everything easy to understand?
Okay.
Do you know what's the income?
Reddito pro capite.
Mm-hmm. Okay. To
Reddito
be
pro capite.
exactly to be ranked.
È classificata.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, I guess that wealthiest, what's the meaning? Okay.
Eureka.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. An array of options.
Una serie?
È
Una serie
un
di opzioni.
ventaglio, che è lo stesso di...
It's like a variety.
Gamma, sì.
Yeah, exactly. Like a variety.
Bene.
Many different, options. Yeah.
No.
Mm-mm-mm. Do you want any volunteer to keep on reading? Whoever is interested, whoever is willing to read.
I'm interested, but I don't know if the others want.
Listen, you choose Australia so you can read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give it a try.
But now I don't see the text.
You can't see my screen? Let me check.
Mm.
Excuse me.
Do anybody else? Does anybody else see the screen or not?
You see the
Can
screen?
you?
The
Okay.
same text you read. This is okay
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
It,
Australia is run by a constitutional monarchy with a federal division in power. Meanwhile, its government system employs the parliament system. Australia is made up of 6 states and 1 territory: New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, Western Australia, and the Northern Territory. In terms of geography, there is a lot of variety in Australia. Some states or regions have a tropical rainforest, while others are made up of mountain ranges. The famous outback is an arid land. The world's largest coral reef, the Great Barrier Reef, is also in Australia. Currency Australian dollar, official language. English is the official language used in Australia.
Okay. Is there any word you don't know? Anybody?
Okay.
How do you pronounce exactly monarchy? Monarchy.
Monarchy. Monarchy is the
Monarchy.
French pronunciation. It's
Ah,
monarchy.
monarchy. Government. Mountain ranges.
So the ranges is like a group of mountains.
Ah, yeah.
A range. So the Alps is a range. No, you can talk about the Alpine range. Do you know Italian for range?
No, perché noi diciamo Alpi, Appennini.
Catena.
Diciamo,
Catena.
oh, non mi viene.
You can say catena montuosa in
Ah,
Italian.
sì, è vero, sì.
Yeah. Okay. What about the coral reef? Do you all know what's the reef?
Beh, diciamo anche noi reef, no?
Sì.
It's you can say this word in Italian, but
Barriera.
it's not
Barriera
Ah,
corallina,
sì,
no?
barriera corallina, sì.
Australia
Okay.
is also Aussie. Aussie.
Yeah, the locals call it Aussie.
Mm.
The Australians are the Aussies, while the New Zealanders are the Kiwis. Okay.
This is the bridge in Sydney.
Sydney Bridge, exactly.
Mm.
Okay. The Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Harbor, yeah. And nearby there is the Opera House.
Exactly. Okay, so you can remember.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's read some trivia about Australia. Do you all know the word trivia?
Trivia.
Trivia.
I don't know.
Cose brutte. Trivia. Ah, banali. Sì, sì, sì.
No. Trivia in this case, it's like fun fact. It's something interesting.
Something interesting. Yeah, okay.
Good things to know, or interesting things to know, fun things to know about some place. Okay. So, trivia. Australia is sparsely populated. The average number of persons in every square kilometer in the UK is at 248 persons, while in Australia there are only 2.66 persons living per square kilometer. So each
I don't have the screen.
you can't see the screen.
Can't see.
Give me a moment. Can you see it right now?
No.
Just give me a moment. Let me check. What about now?
No. Always this. Just come. No, no, no.
Is there anybody else who can't see the screen? Or can you all see the screen? Everybody's seeing the screen?
Yes, but I read.
Riuscite tutti a vedere lo schermo?
Sì, l'Australia, no? Questo qua. Sì.
So
Crime.
you still can't see it, Anna?
Crime. Australia is a safe place. This.
That's this one. Yeah, exactly.
But upstairs there is 2 lines. There are 2 lines.
Yeah, but
I see. It's written like that.
yeah, but it's nothing, nothing interesting. It's just
Okay.
random things.
Okay.
Writing on the left side and this kind of things. It's more, useful information if you're traveling to Australia, but not, interesting things to us. Okay, so
where were you reading?
I was reading the trivia, the
Trivia. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Now I
So
see it. Excuse me.
no worries, it's all right. So Australia is sparsely populated. The average number of persons in every square kilometer in the UK is at 248 persons, while in Australia there are only 2.66 persons living per square kilometer. So each 2 persons in Australia, well, each 1 person in Australia, you have like 100 person in the UK. That's a big deal. That's a huge difference.
Uh,
So, do you all understand sparsely populated? Sparsely?
Nel senso che la popolazione non è fitta, no? Cioè, non è molto densa.
Sparsely populated in italiano it would be scarsamente popolata.
scarsamente.
Exactly.
Ma scarsamente non è scarsely? Anche sparsely?
No, I guess it's sparsely. Let me check, but yeah, I guess that's the only word. Yeah, you can also say scarcely. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah. Let me check. Okay. You can say barely, scarcely, insufficiently. Yeah, very.
Forse qui è sparpagliata, no?
Yeah, it's slightly different.
È scarsamente, sì.
Yeah, but the meaning is it's slightly different because it's not that much inhabited, but also in a sparse way. So people are living quite far from each other.
Yeah.
So it's similar to scarcely, but it's not exactly the same. It's more like not thickly or not densely populated. It's the opposite of densely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's read other interesting facts about Australia. The distance between London to Moscow is the same as the distance from the westernmost point to the easternmost point of Australia. London and Moscow, can you imagine? But the same distance is, between the westernmost and the easternmost point in Australia. It's definitely as big as a continent, So, the world's oldest fossil can be found in Australia. Australia is next to NZ, to New Zealand, in history for allowing women to vote. Okay. So Australians spend more on gambling than any other nation. Well, nice to know. The size of the largest property owned in Australia is bigger than the size of Belgium. Wow. Impressive. Can you understand this sentence? So the largest property in Australia, the largest owned property, is bigger than the whole country of Belgium.
Yeah.
Just one.
Very vast. They are very vast.
Yeah, it's a sparse country, a huge country. Yeah. So Melbourne. Oh no, sorry. So the price of electricity in Australia is among the highest in the world. I guess it's related on the density. Definitely, it's one of the reasons. So Melbourne is recognized as the sporting capital of the world. There are more top-level sports played here and are available to Australians than anywhere else in the world. So the biggest variety, or the most diverse variety of sports in the world. The largest living structure can be found in Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. So living structure, is something, living, something alive. Okay. Australia consists of over 60 wine regions. As Anna said, many different wine regions. Australia places second in the Human Development Index ranking, so a quite developed country, I would say, probably one of the most developed in the world.
They like to play cricket very much, and also I remember that they used to meet to join on Sundays all together. They make a sort of lotteries with premi, sono awards, adesso non mi ricordo più.
In this case, it's prize.
Prize?
Prize. I'm going to
Prize, yeah, prizes.
prize.
And
Prize.
they eat all together, just like a big club. They use this very much to stay together.
Yeah, I guess it's something, Commonwealth related. It's something, that dates back to the British culture, because there's something similar in the UK.
Yeah.
And even in Australia, they have huge, like, braai culture. Braai is the South African word for barbecue. So I guess it's, something dating back from, from colony times.
I remember The parrots asking, "How are you?" like that all the time.
That's interesting.
Good day. What did you say?
That's interesting.
Ah, yeah.
What about the indigenous Australians? Could you see any of them?
No, unfortunately, no. That's not possible. No. Or no.
Yeah,
I wanted to. We had in mind to go to the. Oh, mamma, come si chiamano quelle rock lì? Quella roccia rossa.
Yeah, to
Oddio.
the Holy Rock in Australia. I can't remember the name, but I know what you mean. Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock, yeah.
So Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock.
Yeah.
Wow. It was too hot, really.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially because if you go, farther, farther in the inland part of the country, in the interiors of the country.
I went. Yeah.
So you've been to the bush. It must be so hot there.
I was in Albury, and when I meet some Australian and I tell this, they say, "Oh, you were in the true part of Australia." Anyway, look, in this picture, this side where the picture come, there is Manly Beach. I think that it's wonderful, a wonderful beach. I remember that.
Nice. Yeah, one of the first things, coming to my mind thinking about Australia, definitely the beaches.
Yeah.
And is there anything you'd like to add or to ask before the end of the lesson?
Could you write down Menlo Beach, or Manly Beach, something like that for me?
I guess it's mellow. It means like sweet beach.
Manly Beach, Menlo Beach, Menlo, in Sydney.
Yeah, that's the mellow yellow. Is it this one? Bondi Beach? No.
It's very near the harbor. Enjoy the mellow. No,
So that's not.
I think it was Menlo with N. Could be.
I have no idea. Never heard of it. I'm not sure. Is it like
Manly Beach, Menlo Beach.
Michelle?
Ecco, fantastico. Manly,
Melly
eccola
Beach?
lì.
Okay. Because I heard about Bondi Beach. Bondi Beach
Manly Beach.
famous, but maybe even about Shelly Beach, but never about Melly Beach.
No, it's Manly Beach. I remember. Wonderful, remembering. Souvenir.
Nice experience. I can
Yeah.
Anyway, any other thing you'd like to ask? Otherwise, I'm gonna call it a day for today. And I can see you next week. The last lesson, the final.
Okay, thank you very much.